So I'm going to show you in this video exactly the case study of how we took a business from 4.2 million per year to 20 million per year in 3 years, and also how we've had case studies where we have increased sales by 11.4 million in 12 months and 9.1 million pounds in 12 months as well. I'm going to show you exactly how we do that and then how you can apply that to your own business in here, right? So when you look at any business, typically there's 3 core problems. Either you're not making enough, you're not getting enough repeat buyers, or you're not turning enough leads into buyers. So the people who buy from you don't spend enough, right? Not coming back to buy from you again and again. So that's lifetime customer value. Or not enough people who see your offer end up actually buying. So that's conversion rate. And then the bonus problem, you don't actually know what's causing that problem, right? You don't know what to fix first because you're unsure what the data is telling you. So I'm going to show you exactly how our process fixes each one of those bottlenecks and how you can use it in your business as well. So just to show you the evidence as well, we took a business from 4 million to 20 million a year in 3 years. So they went from doing about 3.5 million profit in 2021 to doing over 11 million profit in 2023. So this client, they were burnt out doing live launches 4 times a year. And they said, look, we want to build something evergreen. So we went into an industry that was rife with live challenges. And anytime someone tried to create an evergreen challenge, it didn't really work. So we went, okay, how can we make this work? How can we make it feel like as live as possible, but make it evergreen so it's running every single day? So we added in extra engagement tools to improve consumption through the challenge. We split tested over 400 pages, right? Get the best possible messaging and the best conversion rates. We added in AI, concierge, gamification to increase that lifetime customer value. We dialed in the messaging based on the data and analysis, and then analyzed the data to find winning trends to scale. So after the results, after profit after ads, we increased by 335%, increased yearly sales by an extra 15 million per year. And then it meant they now had an evergreen selling machine, dramatically increasing ongoing sales and profitability. Right. This one here, we beat the previous best month sales by 820,000 just in 90 days of working together. So back in October, they were doing just over 1 million. And we went to 1.991 million in the January, right? So within 3 months, we'd smashed all records, and we're on pace to do that again this month as well, which is fantastic. And one of the reasons we did that is so they were unhappy with the lack of innovation from the previous agency. Maybe you're finding that in your own business if you're more established, where you've got an agency that you just kind of like, they're just picking up the paycheck. They're not really doing a lot. And you kind of like, you're not quite sure what are they doing. They wanted to scale to 100 million, and they knew that the current agency that they had just wasn't going to help them get there, right? So we came in, we helped to improve the webinar pitch. Their webinar pitch increased, depending on which webinar it was, between 50 and 100% in terms of close rate. So they went from like 12% close rate to 20 to 25% close rate. Sometimes we're hitting as high as 27% close rate in the webinar now. And they identified the dream customer to get the right people in the room. We dialed in the messaging with the media buyers as well. We tested a lot of different things. We grew past the best sales month ever, achieved over a 5x ROAS on that, and then unlocked growth that the previous agency just couldn't. We also helped them drop the lead cost from £55 on their first big webinar that they did down to £7, right? Which allowed them to go and scale that. And I'm going to show you some more stuff around that coming up. And then this client, we increased them by 11,445,000 in 12 months. So they were stuck at under the million a month mark. They've been running the same funnel for 2 years, no optimization. Every time they tried to scale, the funnel just broke. So what we did to start off with is this was their main funnel was a VSL funnel, right? So someone opted in, watched a video, filled in an application, booked a call. So we knew that the biggest drop-off opt-in rate was like 15%. So we took through multiple tests. I think we tested about 30, 40 different hooks. We took the opt-in rate from 15% to 25%, which meant essentially 66% more leads were coming in for the same cost, right? And then we looked at every single stage of the buyer journey and then fixed each one of those bottlenecks as we go through. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do that in the Amplify Your Profit system. And then this client, we took their business and generated an extra 9.171 million in just 12 months. And this month we are on pace for the first 3 million month, right? So they've gone from making about 1 million to looking like the run rate now is going to be for this year to be 3 to 4 million a month. And I know that sounds like quite a big difference between 3 and 4 million, but we've got all the scaling metrics really working well. So it means they're going to be able to scale fast. So it's just a case of putting fuel on the fire and then just making sure that still holds, right? Because we've gone so far under KPI, we've got so much room to grow. So they went from doing 14.5 million a year to doing 23 million in the first 12 months of working together from 2023 to 2024. And now moving forward, we are expecting the target this year is for us to do 40 million, right? So we're looking to double that. So what do you need to fix these problems, right? It comes down to 3 core fixes. A customer needs to spend more on each sale. You need to get the customers to buy more often. You need to convert more leads into buyers. And ultimately what's happening is businesses are either growing or declining, right? So ideally you want to grow, you don't want to decline, and like the business just like goes down and down and down because you don't really stay at a level very often, right? So businesses, and there's different levels of what considered maturity, right, in business. But if you look at your business like startup where you're just really scrapping, you're doing all the things yourself, then you start to grow. And as you grow, you start to figure out, oh, we've got this sales process that's working quite well. And then you start to hit a point where maybe you get to like 5 million or 10 million a year, and then you've hit that for a couple of years and it just stops, right? And what happens there is, because then if the innovation isn't happening, then the business just starts to decline over time because all the other costs are rising, right? So like wages are going up, costs of ads are going up, like costs of ads have gone up like, as much as 104% in the last 24 months. The amount of touch points that someone needs to buy now has gone up significantly. So all those things like contribute to then the business declining, even if you're just doing exactly what you were doing last year. So if you do the same as you did last year, your business is going to decline, right? And it's going to start losing profit, rather than what do you need to do differently this year to keep growing. So this is our full system that I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to walk you through basically how the whole system works. So as we spoke about, we want to get people to spend more often, and convert more, right? So if we do all those 3 things, we maximize profit. So when we break that down, you've got avatar, customer journey, and data as the 3 foundation principles. So the avatar, like knowing who your dream customer is. If you don't know who your dream customer is, you can't scale. So one of our clients, when we came in, they were targeting stay-at-home moms. That was kind of like their main thing. What we looked at was actually like who was the demographic that was the ones that could the affordability for the high ticket program, and it was actually quite often the corporate mums. So it wasn't the mums who had a lot of potentially more time, right? It was the mums that they were cash rich but time poor, and they wanted to build something that was passive that would then buy them their time back. So that when we changed the avatar, the back end sales conversions went up. So we went from like 7% to around 10% back end sales conversions from people who bought the front end product. And by the way, this was without any sales calls. So like we're turning people into $5,000 or $6,000 plus buyers, no sales calls, no sales team at that point, right? So that's the first piece. Second piece is the customer journey. So understanding what is every single touch point in the customer journey. So through doing this links into when we'll talk about profitable path in a second, is by putting this customer journey piece together, it allowed us to see actually there was a drop off between people reaching the first upsell page and the second upsell page. So we found that 50% of the people, in fact, it was 51 to be precise, 51% of the people who saw the first upsell page never reached the second upsell page, right? They just they bought the product, they saw an upsell, maybe they got confused or whatever, and they just left. So we went, how can we fix that? So we put an exit pop on the page that when they were about to leave, it said, hey, I've got one more thing for you. Click here. And it basically just created a curiosity hook of what they wanted to click on. And that improved the amount of people getting to the second OTO page. And it meant we were selling a $500 upsell on the second page, and we were converting like a good 5% of those people on that page, right? So that's massively increasing the average order value, which meant originally when we started working together, that average order value on their front end product was like $27. We got it up to $115, which meant they could spend more to acquire a customer, right? And then we look at data as well. So the data is the other core foundational piece. So, whether you work with us or whether you go and do this yourself, you need real-time dashboards in place. You need to be able to see every single day, like, where are the breaks in the sales process? Is it breaking at the ad level? Is it breaking on the funnel? Is it breaking with the sales team? Is it breaking because people are not showing up for calls, right? What stage of the journey is that happening? We install heat mapping as well to go, okay, well, if that part of the page isn't working, then what's causing that to happen, right? Because quite often we think it's something, but when we actually look at the heat mapping and the visitor recordings, right? So we see how far people are scrolling in the page, and then we see what the visitors are doing on the page. It's actually something completely different than we were expecting, right? Because we always let the market decide. Like, the market knows best. So, for example, we looked at visitor recordings recently for a client where we noticed the cost per lead had just gone through the roof. And we were like, well, why is that happening? So we looked at the visitor recordings and we realized, as a tech team internally that they had was moving over to another CRM platform. When that happened, it actually was adding this cookie banner on there, but the cookie banner was covering the whole page. You couldn't see anything else. You couldn't even see the headline, right? So what was happening is people just seeing that cookie banner and then leaving the page. So as soon as we reduced the size of the cookie banner, right, to make it a lot smaller, suddenly everything started working again. So we analyze all those things and then we split test accordingly, right? So quite often, a lot of money can be made by just moving the budget around. So if you've got multiple funnels, it's like, which one is actually making the most profit? So sometimes you'll have a certain funnel that is great at bringing in leads, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a lead magnet, right? It could be a free book. It could be some kind of product launch formula, like welcome series, whatever the thing is. But that might be really good at bringing in leads, but it's not the thing that converts to sales. So we have to look at the data and understand what is working and what isn't, right? And then allocate the spend to that, because then we might know, okay, we put the money in there, but in 30 days' time, they're going to go and buy from a different funnel because we brought them in there. But if we don't fill the funnel, right, with new leads, then they're not going to come out the other side. And then we test on-page, email, ads, offers, pricing, user experience, etc. Right? And then we're also looking, once we know what that profitable path is, then we go and test offers. So we look at the offers and we look at that together and go, okay, like, how can we make the economics of the offer better? So what we mean by economics is, if I put $1 in, how quickly can I get that dollar back? And if we can speed up, it's called a cash conversion cycle. If we can speed up that cash conversion cycle, so basically from the time that I put $1 in, for the time that I get $1 back. So does it take me 1 day to get that dollar back? Does it take me 30 days? Does it take me 60 days, 90 days, 365 days? I've spoken to some companies that they go in the negative for 3 years, right? Big software companies, before they actually make profit. It doesn't need to be that way. So, like, we look at how can we build more better upsells that increase the average order value that then offset the cost of the ads. And it's not always ads, by the way. There's lots of different ways to acquire customers. I'm just using that as an example. Then we've got retargeting, right? So what are all the different follow-up sequences? And when we look at retargeting isn't just ads. Retargeting can be email, SMS, phone calls, right? You could be putting billboards out, like whatever the thing is that is essentially really it's follow up, right? So what are all the follow up pieces along the way? Then we've got the value ladder. So, okay, if someone's buying this product, how do we get them from this product to this product? And what's the bridge? And how do we bridge that gap as much as possible? So all the different products can go along the way. And then once we've done all that, then we've got leverage. So we want to create as much leverage in the business as possible. So we don't necessarily need to spend more to make more. That's really important. We don't need to always spend more to make more, because we can focus on things like leverage. So, for example, labor-wise, right, you might find we quite often introduce to strategic partners. So instead of going through the cost of recruitment, where I think a bad hire, the last time I saw it, a bad hire costs like $42,000 or something like that, right? So it's quite a lot. Instead, we introduce you to a strategic partner that will go and fill that gap for you in the short term, and then they will hire themselves back out in the process. So they kind of fill that void. Got media buy partners and everything that we refer to. We can refer to sales teams, all those kind of things, right? So it's a lot easier. It speeds up the progress and it speeds up the growth a lot quicker when you know that you've got the right people on the team, right? If you look at EOS, which is Wickman's entrepreneurial operating system, they talk about right people in the right seats. And that's really what this is all about. And looking at media capital code, right? So once we've created something, how can we systematize it and then have the internal team run that on a day-to-day, so then we can be looking at the next thing that is going to grow the business. And that's really what it's all about. It's not about, like, when we come into business, it's not about us being in the weeds and, like, so you guys going to go and write all my emails and everything. Hey, we'll go and write the first round of the emails. We'll go and find the control and we'll find what's working. And then once we've done that, we'll systematize it, and then we can give it to your team as your team is growing, right? And then your team run that part, and that becomes business as usual. And then we go and find the next growth lever, because that's where the biggest wins come from, is when we're always looking like, what's the next thing? And sometimes the next thing isn't a big thing. Sometimes it's a tiny thing. I'll give you an example. This week, we had a client who's got a webinar. Their webinar as per new lead. If we get that number right, everything else works. So their cost per new lead was great, but another one of the webinars, it wasn't. It was outside of KPI. So what did we do? Well, we looked at it and we said, well, could we run that ad on that webinar? Simple question, right? And it turned out we could. And guess what? We took their cost per new lead from £32 down to £17 overnight, right? One suggestion. So imagine how much money in your business that you're potentially leaving on the table right now by not having someone who's looking for those things, someone who's spotting those things. So, like, if we didn't see that webinar would have died. It would not have been able to scale. Because it's now within KPI, that means we can go from selling 30, 40 sales on each webinar to now we just on the last webinar, we sold 220 sales, right? Massive difference. Why? Because we found where the bottleneck was and we fixed it. And that's what this is all about, right? It's finding the right things. So you could go and do all this yourself if you want to go and do it yourself. That's fine. I'll be honest, it's a lot of work. It's took us 7 years to get it to this point and where it is right now. You can probably see on the page it's a lot of work. If you want some help with this, right, putting this together and implementing it in your business and working with an agency that is not there to kind of, go and have 50 clients and just go, oh, yeah, we'll stick you on a junior account manager, right? If you want a business growth partner that'll grow with you and be very much incentivized to grow as well, then let's have a conversation. Happy to help and support you along the way. And we can talk about what the next steps are. So have a fantastic one, and there'll be a button or something around this video, and I'll catch up with you soon.